I'm a teacher, so I get about 2 months off every summer, but my mom, sister, aunt and cousin all work regular 9 till 5 jobs with 2 or 3 weeks off a year, so it's really difficult to organize time for trips where we can all go. We managed to schedule a girls' trip to Cabo from June 1st to 9th. Made payments, almost $3,000 a person, several weeks before the trip, and we're all very excited to go to Mexico and bond. I'm best friends with my sister and cousin, and my mom and aunt are identical twins, so we're all a very close group. My boyfriend and I have been together for 2 years. His family lives across the country, so I only see them twice a year, and it's usually pretty quick. No real one-on-one bonding with anyone in his family, but we're all definitely friendly with one another. We like each other's posts on Facebook, send happy birthday wishes, stuff like that. A few days before we left, my boyfriend's mom passed away unexpectedly. I spent days attached to his hip, supporting him, wrote the email to his work explaining what happened, cleaning the apartment, making sure he ate, called his dad and siblings, and expressed my condolences, booked his flight, helped him pack, and others. He asked me to go to the funeral with him. I felt so bad telling him no. I hardly knew his mom and feel like I already committed myself to the trip with my family. He was heartbroken and begged me to go with him for support, but I told him that his whole family is there, and if anything, it was a special time for them all to recount memories of their mother, wife, sister, daughter. He asked if he gave me $1,500, could you go on the trip sometime later, you have 2 more months off. I know you won't get some deposits back, so I'll give you this money, and I honestly felt so bad, but the thing isn't the money, although obviously as a teacher, I'm not swimming in money, but it's about how this is the one time a year that the women I'm closest to can go together. My mom and aunt told me we want you to come with us, but it's ultimately up to you, whereas my cousin and sister were like you should definitely come with us, it'll ruin the trip for us, if you're not there, just come, etc. My boyfriend was upset and left mad at me. I called and texted a bunch, but he didn't respond until days later. Anyways, I went to Mexico and came back on the 9th, and things have been weird with us. Sometimes he's really close with me like usual, other times I can tell he's mad I didn't go with him. He said he was not furious at me, but just disappointed and sad that I chose to go party instead of being there with him. Says he would have dropped anything for me, keeps emphasizing that I have 2 months of vacation, but he doesn't get that no one else in the group has that kind of vacation time. I really couldn't reschedule. I feel really bad because I didn't go with my boyfriend to his mom's funeral because I already had a trip planned with my family. Did I screw up? You're the idiot. If I were him, I would seriously reconsider the relationship. Can't imagine starting a family with someone with such poor judgment and low empathy. Says he would have dropped anything for me, keeps emphasizing that I have 2 months of vacation, but he doesn't get that no one else in the group has that kind of vacation time. I really couldn't reschedule. This is the only time in his life he can go to his mom's funeral. You chose a once-a-year fun event, or maybe once in a couple of years, it doesn't matter, over a once-in-a-lifetime tragedy. You're the idiot. I totally get it. One time you can spend the time you always wanted to is a big deal, and when you plan like this, it becomes consuming. I understand why you made your decision. But it was the wrong one. Death carries a lot more impact than $3,000 and a week in Mexico. I'm sure it was fun, and you'll remember it forever. But now your boyfriend has to live with the fact that the woman he loves intimately couldn't make it to his mother's funeral when he asked. The fun you had was a time and mourning for him. He has a right to be upset. You're the idiot. You need to be there for your boyfriend. He desperately needed your support in this situation, and you chose a fun trip over helping him in a time of need. He didn't feel he could go to the funeral on his own and needed you for support because he loves you. He needed you specifically. Not his family and friends, who are probably also mourning and not that helpful. Wouldn't you have wanted him there if it was you who needed help? Try to put yourself in his shoes and then imagine your partner just bailing on you for a vacation. That's pretty rough. My younger, 23, sister and I, 27, were both adopted at birth. I'm adopted, our parents are Caucasian, while she is the same race as our parents. Neither of us are biologically related to each other or our parents. We both had happy childhoods, and our parents were always supportive of us. We always knew we were adopted, and I never felt that my parents loved us any less than our brother. We have one older brother who is our parents' biological child. Neither of us had ever cared to look for our birth parents when we were younger, but our parents said that we would be able to when we turned 18. About a year ago though, someone suggested to her that she read The Primal Wound. The gist of the book is basically that if you're adopted you will be traumatized for the rest of your life because separation of a baby from the mother is traumatic. I read a bit of it and I didn't care for it, and honestly, I thought it was crap. If the book's hypothesis were true, then children whose mothers died in childbirth would be traumatized, or those born through a surrogate. However, she took everything she read to heart and basically blamed adoption for all of her problems. She did 23andMe and was able to find her birth mother. Her birth mother was nice to her at first, but I'm not really sure what went down, but she eventually had to tell my sister to keep away. The birth mother had remarried and had done really well for herself and was not interested in the close relationship that my sister wants. From what I understand, she apparently had wanted to keep her, but was unable to do so because of financial reasons. She regrets giving up her sister, but at this point in her life, she has come to terms with it and has decided with her husband, who is not my sister's father, that they can't be there for her as her parents. Apparently, my sister's bio dad died in prison about 15 years ago. Since then my sister has been very moody. Every time we see each other she pesters me to read the book and we end up fighting about it. All she does is complain about how her life would be so much better if her mother had kept her or if our parents had given her bio mom money so that she could keep her. Finally, last night when we were having dinner together she started her usual complaints. I finally got mad and went off on her, telling her that our parents were the best thing that had ever happened. She probably wouldn't have done well with her bio mom, and adoption isn't traumatizing, and that book completely messed up her life, and I wish she hadn't read it. She is now not talking to me. Am I the idiot? My mother and her sister were adopted. My mom feels and has always felt abandoned and wants for knowing her birth family. You might not be traumatized by the event, but maybe she was. Different people can respond to similar events in different ways. You said you blew up at her for telling you were traumatized, but it sounds like you blew up at her telling her she isn't traumatized. Anyways, no idiots here, but I think you should try to understand that she is a different person having different emotional responses than you, and that does not invalidate them. Definitely not the idiot. I'm also adopted. Haven't read that book, but from what you described about it, already think it's crap. I've recently found out some of my birth mother's history and why I was given up for adoption. My adoptive family, put in quotes because to me they are just my family, is my real family and I got lucky with them. She's entitled to feel however she wants, and so are you. She should stop pushing her feelings onto you. Everyone's the idiot here. You basically invalidated real pain that she is experiencing. Not everyone who is adopted is traumatized, but some people who are adopted are traumatized. And you commented that she had it so easy in life and is just looking to blame her problems on something out of her control, which is a crappy thing to say. Even if you feel her own actions are to blame for her problems, consider the fact that self-sabotage isn't fun for anyone at all and that she has underlying issues. She needs therapy and you need to learn some compassion. My 25 boyfriend, 25, has a PS4 and a couple of dozen games. He bought it new 3 months ago, but with no warranty, so he's made a conscious effort to keep it in good condition, including packing it away in the box when he doesn't think he'll use it for a while. He did this yesterday, putting the console in the box and then putting the box into a larger plastic storage container with all his games, as he's out of town for next week. He left the container under our bed, but the side was poking out, so you could see the PlayStation box through the plastic. Today my sister, 31, had a few work meetings, one after the other, over about 5 hours, and rang me in a panic, saying the sitter called in sick and she needed someone to watch nephew, 11 years old. I reluctantly agreed, and she dropped him by. He wanted to watch TV, so I gave him the remote and got on with my work. Couple of hours go by without incident, but then nephew got hungry. I went to the kitchen to cook for him. About a minute later I went to check on him and he was gone. I found him upstairs in mine and boyfriend's room, digging through the container with the PS4 inside. By the time I'd gotten there he'd taken out the box and a few games, and I asked him what he thought he was doing. He said he was bored and wanted to play. I said no. He did the whole "I'll tell my mum you're being mean to me." I said, "Tell her what you want," still not happening. Nephew, on realizing I wasn't about to let him use it, tried to run past me, carrying the PS4 in his arms, presumably to hook it up to the TV downstairs. I don't know what happened exactly, if he tripped or lost his grip or what, but he dropped the PS4 right at the top of the stairs. It fell down the flight of stairs, and when we checked it was a mess of cracked plastic and wiring. I clean up, give nephew his lunch, sit him in front of the TV. The whole time nephew is saying that I should have just let him use it. I rang boyfriend to let him know and he's obviously mad and sad, but says that it's fine when it clearly isn't. He asks me to look up prices for a new one, and it's more than we can afford RN. Sister arrives, asks if nephew was any trouble, and I tell her about the console. She immediately says I should have watched him better. I tell her that I was cooking and that I watched him today for 6 hours, as well as countless other times I've babysat and never once expected payment, but in this case, it's you break it, you buy it, and I show her the prices I got when I searched for a new console. She says I'm being unreasonable and she's not replacing it because she didn't do it and I was watching nephew, plus she's not paying for a new one when boyfriend had his for a couple of months already. Am I that idiot? Not the idiot. An 11-year-old definitely knows better, and while they do still require supervision, it's typically not nearly to the degree of a younger child. You were making his lunch, and he's old enough to notice it still and definitely not go rifling through someone else's belongings. Then he shows zero regrets for breaking it. Sounds like your sister and nephew reek of entitlement. She can either pay up or lose a trusted babysitter, in my opinion. Not the idiot. Never babysit for your sister again unless she replaces your boyfriend's console. She and your nephew are huge idiots. He is old enough to know he wasn't supposed to touch your boyfriend's property, but had the gall to root under your bed and then try to run past you. Crap. What did he think would happen? He'd streak by, hook up the game, and you'd just allow him to play because he outwitted you? And your mooching sister taking advantage of you by not paying in the first place and then tries to make the actions of her thieving child your fault. Not the idiot, her kid is old enough that he should know how to respect people's possessions. If you had allowed him to use it then maybe, but seeing as he went into your personal space then proceeded to run from you when you tried to stop him is nuts. I will say unhooking the PlayStation and carrying it upstairs to the store seems like it would be more likely to get broken than if it were to remain properly hooked up. Maybe get a TV stand that has a cabinet if worried about spilling, but I never put beverages down on my TV stand either. Just a thought. My son is 14 years old and severely autistic. The school that he goes to does not provide school buses just for special needs children, so he rides the same bus as the rest of the other kids in our neighborhood. The school year started 2 weeks ago, and this is the first time he's been riding the bus. In the years past, I drove him to and from school, but with my schedule, this year, just dropping off and picking him up from the bus stop is much more convenient. 2 weeks ago, on the first day of school, I introduced myself to the bus driver and asked that he keep the bus as quiet as possible since loud noises lead to my son getting upset or having meltdowns. He said he would try his best. That afternoon, my son became agitated during the bus ride home and refused to get off the bus at his stop. I had to get on the bus and calm him down to get him off. The bus driver glared at me as we were getting off the bus, and I said, if you're going to be mad at anybody, it should be yourself. I told you to keep the bus quiet. After that, every morning and afternoon the bus driver glares and frowns at me. In contrast, he greets all the other kids and their parents in a very cheerful and friendly way. I called the school and told them about the bus driver being so rude, and they said they would look into it. After a couple more days, he hadn't stopped with the dirty looks, so I called a few more times and they said that nobody has ever had any problems with that bus driver and many people say that he's the best one at the school. Which I sincerely doubt. I mentioned the issue to my neighbor, who has 2 children that ride the same bus as my son, and she said that I am completely unreasonable, that the bus driver is the nicest guy you'll ever meet, and that her children say my son is extremely disruptive on the bus, and that she thinks he shouldn't be riding the bus. Obviously, this made me angry because my son has just as much of a right to ride the bus as her kids. Am I the idiot? I would honestly say you are the idiot. Your son has a disability, and you're putting him in a situation where he has no choice but to be agitated. This bus driver is not specialized in dealing with autistic children. Buses full of kids are loud, chaotic, and annoying. That's just how normal school bus rides are. But you know your son is not able to function normally in such a situation, yet you're blaming the driver. You're the one who put your son there. If you need better accommodation, find it, but don't dump your responsibility on someone else. You're the idiot. The man drives a bus full of middle schoolers. Do you happen to remember what that was like? He couldn't keep them quiet if he tried. It's like a cage full of baby monkeys. He has to drive too. He can't pull over every time a kid is loud. They have to get to school. Often bus drivers are straight up not allowed to discipline kids. Your kid has the right to ride a bus, but expecting the driver and more than 30 children to bow to your behavioral expectations is unreasonable. His ability to control their behavior is extremely limited, and you're being entirely unreasonable. You're the idiot. This bus driver is clearly doing his job well, as evident from the praise from the other parents. A bus is a loud, noisy environment. There is no possible way he could make it not one. Even if he could, he really doesn't get paid enough for all the extra work it would take to snap at him so rudely and tell him it's his fault is unbelievable. You either need to sue the school for better busing, which they are required to give, or find a solution for your son. Noise-canceling headphones. This man is underpaid and driving a bus of preteens. So my girlfriend and I, both in our 20s, got invited to go on a vacation that her brother's wife, and their 3 kids, all ages 7 and below, planned to go on for 12 days. I was very happy to go, but since I have a job that is kind of crappy with vacations, I only went for 5 days. At first, my girlfriend told me that I could stay for free, which I was very gracious about because my job doesn't pay that much. From the get-go, I was told I'd have to pay my share of meals, which I found perfectly understandable. So it came as a big surprise when my girlfriend's sister-in-law sent her a text of what I owed. It included everything from a portion of gas they used to a portion of the car they rented, a portion of the general supplies they bought, and the biggest shock, a portion of the Airbnb they rented. All rated for 5 days of use and a quarter of the 5 days price. I was livid to my girlfriend, and she said there must have been a miscommunication between her and her sister about the Airbnb. I was understanding, although shocked and a little pissed, but am even more angry about the other portion of the bill. I think that, because they would have done things like the car regardless of me, and it was something I had no say in choosing, it was incredibly petty and cheap to ask for me to pay a portion of it. There's also the fact that they make over 6 figures, and I'm a recent college grad struggling to make ends meet in my first real job. It also pisses me off because when a girlfriend's family invites you on vacation, there's an unset expectation that they'll foot part of the bill. My original plan was only to take them all out for dinner one of the nights and to pay for my food for the rest of it. I haven't brought these thoughts up to my girlfriend yet because I don't want to seem like a cheap idiot. So, am I? Not the idiot. Ask your girlfriend what she thinks. She told you wouldn't have to pay, and now there's a bait and switch. Does she even know her sister is asking you to pay? She needs to figure out the deal with her family. Since she promised you a free trip, the most you should agree to pay, which you clearly don't have to do, is for the expenses that wouldn't have been incurred if you didn't go. Like you said, they would have paid for the gas anyway, so you shouldn't have to pay for the car. Not the idiot. This is between your girlfriend and her family. She needs to stick up for you that she told you to expect to pay for meals. I wouldn't pay a dime. If you knew you had to pay some rent, you would have opted out. Failing that, as others have pointed out, the 1/4 portion is crap. I would pay 1/4 of the Airbnb if there were only 2 beds and the 4 adults slept in those 2 beds. I assume they sprang for a larger house because of their 3 children. The car rental is crap all around. They had to rent a minivan or some other third-row monster to haul everyone. Everyone's the idiot here. They screw by asking you to pay for their car rental. Girlfriend screws by telling you it's free when it wasn't her call. You screw because you didn't offer anything towards the trip. I went through this exact thing this summer. Rented a house on the beach for a week with family. After everything was set, a well-loved cousin from out of state is coming with her family. She was driving my car around for 2 weeks for free, stayed at our place for free, and not once did we get even a thank you.